With just a handful of games left in the regular season for both the NBA and NHL, it kind of begs to differ and wonder, well, who's going to be on top when it's all said and done? When the regular season is over, going into the postseason, who's going to be the top dog when it comes to the NBA? Who's going to be the top dog when it comes to the NHL? We've all heard of the curse that comes with the President's Trophy in the NHL. So being that top dog may not be where you want to be per se come the first round of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. We also have now gotten breaking news in the NFL today on a big trade that happened. We are going to talk all about that and the repercussions for that those teams, I should say. But I am your host, Matthew Raridan, and this is Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. Uh, as I talked about in the intro here, we are dwindling down the days, the games for regular season basketball and regular season NHL hockey. And we've got some very close matchups in both leagues, and it is definitely a topic for discussion that needs to be talked about because there is a lot of moving parts, a lot of variables in both leagues, injuries and health. It all ties together this late in the season. They're both very tough sports that put a lot of wear on your body. But first, I want to go ahead and introduce both of my co-hosts here today. First, we've got David Street,
What's up, everybody?
and secondly, we've got Ed Smith.
Welcome, y'all.
Well, guys, the NBA is just we got a couple more, pretty much about a week and a half, a couple more games left. And the regular season for the NBA is pretty much going to be all said and done. We're going to start seeing these matchups and how they're going to play in the playoffs, minus the play-in tournament that happens first. But there are a lot of teams that are pretty much at their best right now, and there's a lot of teams that kind of aren't right now, and it makes me want to ask this question. Well, what teams are shining as we enter, this last week and a half of regular season basketball? Are there any teams that are really popping out to you that are controlling in the NBA?
Well, I think Matthew, I think all of us are in agreement that there's clearly one team that is the shiniest of them all, and that is the Boston Celtics. Those guys have been an absolute wagon this season.
A 12-game lead with a week and a half left. That is insane. But I will actually go to I'll go to the other coast. I'm going to say that the scariest thing going on right now is the fact that the Warriors are on a 5-game win streak to get themselves into the 10 slot for the play-in tournament. Because the last thing you want is to get those boys to get hot going into the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, last year I witnessed it firsthand. I mean, my Kings made the playoffs for the first time in, gosh, a decade. It had been a long time since the Kings made the playoffs, and we went up against the Warriors in the first round, and we were a 2 seed. So the Warriors did just barely make it in, and they did beat us. And yeah, the Warriors are a team that you do not want to face. You don't want them to even get in the door, and if they do get in the door, you better cover up. So the Warriors are a team it doesn't matter if they are a 1 seed or if they are a 10th seed and they are in a play-in tournament. They still have Steph Curry. Last time I checked, they still have Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steve Kerr there. So I
Yeah,
think they're going to be just fine.
I mean, I
And
think
it's not like they've just been eking by this 5-game stretch. This is a 15 points per game difference that they've had over this stretch right now. And that it should be terrifying for everybody that's in the playoffs right now.
I think there's quite a few teams sticking out. We obviously talk about the Celtics, far and away the best team in the NBA this season. I think Ed makes a good point about the Warriors going on a hot run. The Magic, they've been having a great season. The Pelicans have been doing great too.
Mhm.
The Knicks, the Cavs, the Wolves, the Thunder. There's definitely a lot of teams that have been having great seasons.
Yeah, and might I add with the Warriors, keep in mind Klay Thompson comes off the bench now. And I think what's scary about that is damn well if they make the playoffs, Klay Thompson is not coming off the bench. He'll be starting. I mean, it's the playoffs. You're not gonna have a guy like that come off the bench. But yes, the Celtics with Jason Tatum and everything that they're doing there, it's amazing how far they are against the whole Eastern Conference, especially when there was always all this trade talk that surrounded that team. And here they are, by far the best team in basketball. But yeah, there's a lot of other teams right now that are looking really good. And that Pelicans team, Zion Williamson is finally having a healthy type of season. And that's impressive enough right there. But the fact that the Pelicans are starting to look like a pretty legit team, and they have been pretty much the whole year, it's nice to see for basketball because when you have a guy that had that much hype come into the league, you really don't want to see them plagued with injuries like, Ben Simmons, who averages maybe 2 games a year. You don't want to see anyone get hurt, but the NBA, of course, would love to see, a guy who's number one, like Zion Williamson, have a healthy campaign and then also propel that team to the playoffs. So Pelicans are in a pretty good spot right now if they could stay healthy.
And
Um,
talking about health, there's one team that is on the eastern side that has been pretty well lagging for a good chunk of time, but they are going to get one of the biggest guns that you can get back on the court, and that's the 76ers getting Joel Embiid back. He he was cleared to play earlier this week, I believe it was Tuesday, and that is the difference between him being on the court and off the court has been a difference of, I want to say, 250 150 to 250 percentage points as far as winning percentage. Somewhere in the 680 range down to 500. So that is a huge difference, that just in time to get his fitness up, to get his stamina up after that injury that has kept him out for so long, get him up and running for the playoffs. That's going to be a definite need for somebody to try and go in and take on the Celtics.
Well, and
Because,
I
go
also
ahead.
have some yeah, I also have some numbers as well that I looked up. With Joel Embiid, the Sixers were 29 and 17. Now, I do want to add that the Sixers were in the midst of a 4-game losing streak when Embiid went down, but like pretty much every team is going to hit a slump every now and then during the season, so that's not really a big deal. The point is, they were clearly a very very solid team with Embiid, but ever since Embiid has gone down, since then the Sixers have been 12 and 18. So the numbers with and without Embiid kind of speak for themselves.
Yeah, and this is the defending MVP right here. And we are now in a league that is it's a big man league. This time of the year, we are pretty much hearing the same three names as usual, and that's Jokic in Denver, Giannis in Milwaukee, and Embiid with the Sixers because well, they've been dominating pretty much every single game usually, and so it's usually coming down to those three and Embiid being out, it did feel a little different, but there's stars everywhere. There really is. The futures are, alive and well with NBA with the amount of talent that is just surrounding the entire league. But Embiid coming back is definitely rejoice. The Sixers are rejoicing for that because this is the defending MVP. This is their guy. If they want to run in the playoffs, they need to have their guy, and that is Joel Embiid. So can they uh, can they now go further in the Eastern Conference because they have Embiid, or are they going to eventually hit a brick wall if they do play the likes of Milwaukee or Boston?
Well, I think the only person that can keep the Sixers down at this point from being competitive is Doc Rivers. He since he took over coaching, they have been somewhat of a just 500 team, and it is not. It hasn't been impressive enough to think that he can will them to beating some of these upper echelon teams in the on the Eastern Conference. So that's my biggest concern. Embiid fitting into whatever Doc's system is, and then letting his talent shine through on that end of the floor.
For the record, Doc Rivers doesn't coach the Sixers anymore. He's the Bucks coach now. The Sixers
My
coach is
bad.
Nick Nurse.
My
Nick
bad.
Nurse, yeah,
All
yeah.
good, man.
Yeah, Nick Nurse. This isn't the Toronto Raptors team, but uh, I mentioned earlier about it's a big man league, and before it was this big man league that we're seeing now. There's one player that just continued to dominate in the NBA, and that is none other than Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard is a phenomenal basketball player. The things that he did in Portland for the Trailblazers was incredible. Dame time. He got his own nickname because of how clutch he was at the end of games, but never was able to really succeed far in the playoffs. Well, he has been traded to Milwaukee this year, where he is now teamed up with Giannis. And, you know, can he get past this hump of, not making it past the second round in the playoffs? Is he finally going to be on a team that he can go all the way with the Bucks? I mean, is his presence going to help or hurt the Bucks in the end?
Well, I think all the points that Ed was making about the Sixers, you can apply them for the Bucks, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doc Rivers is there. Okay, alrighty. There's a reason why the Clippers never won when he was there too. So,
And he had 2 stars over there too.
Yep,
yeah. And
yep.
speaking of that Clippers team, guys, I mean, earlier I was scrolling through their roster, and I was just like, I don't know why. I must have been sleeping on a rock, but I just couldn't believe the amount of players that are on that team. But I mean, they all are a lot of injured riddled players with Paul George, Kawhi Leonard,
Doesn't it?
Russell
I
Westbrook.
mean, I think we all know that George's first team was the Pacers. I don't know if he got drafted by them or not, but like I'm pretty sure that was the first team he played for. But now at this point, it feels like he's been with the Clippers for forever now, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there. Just all these additions, though, with Kawhi Leonard. Russell Westbrook is another guy that's been traveling around the league,
Yeah.
and then here he is stopped in LA. I mean, it makes you wonder if they're going to be a team to worry about. But I
Yeah.
want to ask you guys, who right now that's currently in the playoff race is probably the most surprising team that's there?
I'll volunteer. I'm being biased when I say this because it is my team, but to me, it has to be the Orlando Magic. I think there's quite a few teams that have surprised people. Certainly, if you argue the Oklahoma City Thunder, I definitely won't argue, against that. I think they have the youngest roster in the league. Certainly, have the youngest starting five at least. The Timberwolves have been they've also been a pleasant surprise as well. But when I look at the Magic, so personally, my season prediction coming into the year was 43 wins and 39 losses, which would have been a great improvement from last year because we were 34 and 48 last year. Guys, right now we're holding on to the fourth seed in the Eastern Conference, and there's an actual legitimate shot that we could end up being the third seed when it's all said and done. And nobody in their right mind could have predicted this. I don't think improvement like I don't think people thought we couldn't improve. I think improvement was expected, but I don't think anybody expected this kind of improvement from the Magic.
Well, what I would point out is the surprising thing for me isn't a particular team being in the playoffs, but where the seating is for these so-called super teams that are out there. You've got the Suns at 8, the Lakers at 9, and the Warriors at 10. I mean, doesn't this finally prove that you can't just go out and buy some talent and win in the NBA? You actually have to cultivate a
Well,
culture and win.
and I love that you bring that up, Ed, because okay, like let's be honest, there was a time when the super team era worked. Okay, we saw it with the Miami Heat with LeBron James, and we saw it with the Golden State Warriors when KD came, right? But like all eras, they come and go. And personally, and I'm sure you guys are going to be in agreement here with me, I love that the NBA is moving away from the super team era and more so like embracing growth and development. I mean, look at the teams that have won it all lately. The Milwaukee Bucks, do we call them a super team? No. The Golden State Warriors, post KD, are they a super team? I wouldn't consider them to be a super team. And then who won it all last year? The Denver Nuggets. Are the Denver Nuggets a super team? No. So, as I said, there was a time when the super team thing kind of worked. It did clearly work, but I love that we're now moving into a more team oriented, more growth and development sort of era here.
Absolutely.
Having these teams, be about the shield more than what's on the back of their jersey is certainly something that I think will actually get more fans back into it,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to having everybody just stand on their platform and talk about whatever they want to talk about in whatever avenue of life that they think that they have an idea of when they play basketball for a living.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned them before, but personally, and I might be a little off base here, but personally, I feel like the Milwaukee Bucks were kind of that first team to like really start, the end of the super team era and like start the new era of true, team basketball because the Milwaukee Bucks are for the most part a homegrown team. I mean, Giannis is a homegrown player. Like that
Mhm.
is the best or one of the best examples of a guy who like he didn't really take the NBA by storm right away, but he grew, he got better, and now he is hands down one of the best players. So I really believe that the Bucks were that first team that started this new era of NBA that we're seeing.
And then you've got Jokic,
Yeah.
uh, being that center. We've gotten to more of a centerpiece
Mm-hmm.
with building a team around them versus that super team idea, like you're saying, David. And watch out this upcoming, couple of years when Wimby gets, you
Mhm.
know, gets
Yeah.
cooking,
Yeah.
And
Oh,
because they've since the last time that we really dove into them, I want to say that they have gotten 3 times as many wins since the last time that we
mhm,
had talked about them, and it's still not under 20, but
yeah.
that is showing growth,
Hey,
and
you know
that
what?
growth is going to push into next season and beyond.
Hey, you know what's also crazy, guys? I mean, maybe I am crazy, but I seem to remember there was a time, there was a point where it just seemed like the big man was just irrelevant, like they just weren't important anymore. Well, now the big man is making a comeback,
yeah, and the tall, lanky ones too. Chet
right?
Holmgren, Victor
Yeah.
Wembanyama. And guys, I wanted to ask you this, and I'm so glad that you brought it up, Ed. But is Victor Wembanyama going to be the guy that keeps Greg Popovich's career alive in San Antonio?
Unfortunately, yes.
It's not gonna be a Nick Saban, I'm done, retire, which it probably could have been if you hadn't seen this bright light shine that's happening right now.
Yeah, Popovich, he had his time with Duncan and David Robinson and Manu and Tony Parker and Kawhi Leonard, coming into the league, and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. He is, to his credit, he's been able to kind of ride the wave of this low tide that's been with the San Antonio Spurs. But with Wimby getting better, will they be able to build a team around him that fits today's NBA
Mhm.
and Greg Popovich's image?
Yeah.
And I think like part of that kind of comes down to okay, like you were successful with David Robinson. You were successful, very successful with Tim Duncan. And so you've proven that you can succeed with generational big men like those guys. Now you finally have another generational big man in Wimby. So I think the Spurs are probably going to, like, depend on that sort of historical success there. But as you said, Ed, I mean the NBA, I mean we all know the NBA is an ever changing league. It's always, it's always evolving. The NBA that we're seeing today is certainly not the same NBA as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's changing, for the good because you are seeing talent that that is evolving. When you look at players like Shaq, and then you look at Wimby, you're like, those are two totally different built players, but they both are dominant at what they do. And that's why Oklahoma City, I mean, they are one of the most surprising teams to me because Chet Holmgren and what SGA is doing there. And here they are. I mean, they are looking really good, going to be going into the playoffs. And they caught a lot of people, by surprise. But like we talked about yesterday with Chet Holmgren, David, you're pretty high on him, and he's showing
Mhm.
why you should look at him being high on him. So, and SGA is also an MVP candidate. So it's
Yeah.
things are looking good for OKC.
I feel like when it comes to OKC, I feel like general manager Sam Presti is like kind of embarking on his own redemption tour because does this sound familiar to you guys? OKC is taking the league by storm. They're the youngest team in the league, or at least the youngest starting five. Does that sound familiar?
Yep.
Literally the exact same thing when they had KD, Harden, Ibaka, and Westbrook. And unfortunately, Presti screwed everything up. Well, now he has a second chance, right? Now he has a new generation and a new era of players here. He has a second chance. So let's see if he can make the most of it, or if he's just going to screw it up like he did last time.
As long as
Man,
he keeps developing players, they're going to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
is this Coach Calipari we're talking about, or sorry, I had to think of
No,
Kentucky there for a second.
there's not development there. There's just
There's
pass
just
through.
yeah, they
Yeah.
just yeah. It's a truck stop. But, yeah, as I said as well earlier, NBA is not the only league right now that is getting ready to go into the postseason. The NHL is right there as well, and we've got several teams battling it out for the President's Trophy. But my question, about it is, do you really wanna battle it out for that President's Trophy? That is, as we've said many times, a very cursed label. David, I mean, you're one of our big hockey guys. Right now, the Rangers are atop. Are they going to continue to be atop and win the President's Trophy? I mean, I know they are playing New Jersey right now. I don't know what the outcome is, there, but before they were atop.
I think the Rangers are going to clinch the first seed in the Eastern Conference, but I do not think they're going to clinch the President's Trophy. I got the Dallas Stars clinching that trophy.
I do too. And if for no other reason, it's the fact that their schedule is one of the worst in
Mm-hmm.
the league right now.
Yeah.
It's like 27th out of 32.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're already in first place at 103 points, why wouldn't you just continue to pile on and wind up getting the President's Trophy?
I'll give you a reason why, because you'll lose in the first round. I'm just not. I'm
Or you
not
could
playing.
you could potentially get swept in the first round. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Dallas, I'm trying to dodge that thing like the plague right now,
Yeah.
but it
But
just
I
it
don't.
never fails.
But like I think the Stars are going to win the President's Trophy. Me and Ed and I are in agreement there. But I don't think there's going to do much, and it's not necessarily because they have the president. Not necessarily because of that trophy. But do you guys know who the coach is?
Mm-mm.
Peter.
Peter DeBoer.
Yep. And what does Peter DeBoer do? Like every couple or few years or so, okay, like he'll take over a team that's like they could be struggling, or they just whatever team they take over, because the Stars had a great season last year. But the point I'm trying to make here is that every time DeBoer takes over a team, they always have a great first year under him, and they make it pretty far. But then what happens? Like they just crash and burn because DeBoer does not know how to adjust. He does not know how to he does not know how to sustain success. I mean, there's a reason why he hasn't been at been with any team for longer than like 4 or 5 years or so.
Uh, any relation to Kalen? So, but this next topic here, this is actually something I really want to dive into because I remember us having this conversation right after All Star break, and that is, will Connor McDavid win his fourth consecutive Art Ross Trophy? At All Star break, he was, I wanna say, 16 points behind the point leaders at that time, and that is the point leaders today of Jared McKinnon uh, and sorry, Nathan McKinnon. Jared McKinnon, that's football. Nathan McKinnon and, Kucherov, and at 127. Well, Connor McDavid is now 1 behind them at 126.
If you
Guys.
recall, Matthew, I'm the one on the show who said, "Yeah, I know Connor McDavid is like 1,000 points behind, but he's still Connor McDavid at the end of the day. So don't be surprised if he's right there at the end."
And that's the thing, it's like, here I am, I should not be surprised whatsoever, and it's like, this guy is so damn good because I'm just like, Kucherov and McKinnon could just continue to do what they're doing and, coast. It's gonna be hard to catch up from 16 points. No, Connor McDavid has had a phenomenal, season since the All-Star break from, February, March, and now going into April, leading the league in points in those 2 months. So, I mean, here he is 1 point behind them at 126, and well, is he gonna get his 4th consecutive trophy? We know who did it last, right, David? Who's the last four-peat?
Was it Gretzky?
Oh, come on.
Dude.
Pittsburgh. Let's go Pens.
Oh, Crosby.
No, Yager.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
He was the last four-peat winner for the Art Ross Trophy, and then before that was Gretzky when he won 7 in a
I
row.
I don't know why you thought I would know that.
I figured, come on, I was asking the question, you had to think Pittsburgh because
Okay,
I'm the
fair
one
enough.
asking,
That's
but
fair.
yeah.
I'll ask a question that David's going to know. Didn't Kucherov break the franchise record for points earlier today?
He did, yes, 129. I don't know if he had an extra point today, but yes, he did break the franchise record for points. And the last time he did that, things didn't go so well for us in the postseason. But hopefully, this postseason is a different story.
Well,
Yeah.
that's just to follow up on the point that Matthew's making. It's taking Kucherov to break the franchise record to stay ahead of him,
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
stay ahead of McDavid. So it is quite the run that Connor's on right now.
Oh yeah, and listen, I'm not going to say Connor McDavid's the greatest hockey player of all time. That's clearly Wayne Gretzky. But I will say he's the greatest hockey player of my generation. And I didn't think anybody would ever surpass Sidney Crosby for that title. But I think I think McDavid has passed that. I know people are going to say like, "Oh, but Sidney Crosby has 3 cups. McDavid doesn't have any." Yeah, I get that. Hockey's a team sport. Surprise, surprise.
Funny question, just kind of off topic. Is Sidney Crosby tired of being called kid? I mean, the dude's like, what, 40 now? Come on.
He's like 36 or 37, but he still looks pretty young for his age,
That's funny. Yeah, me and David literally were talking about that too yesterday. Is just
right?
the fact of the matter of Sidney Crosby still looking pretty good for his age, but then when you look at Ovi,
Who's
at
only a couple years
Washington,
older than him.
you would think he's a grandpa with his silver fox gray hair.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
What?
sorry. It was a compliment, I swear, Ed.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Connor McDavid is once in a generation talent. I being honest when I say that, when you watch him play, just how smooth he is and the things that he is doing when the talent itself is evolving, the sport itself is evolving, everything is evolving, he is still a level above everyone else. And he does it year in and year out. Like I said, this could be his fourth consecutive Art Ross trophy. I just, and you're talking about in the same league as the Austin Matthews, the McKinnons, the Kucherovs, the Crosbys. I mean, the list continues to go on, and he still dominates year in and year out.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I could easily see why you would say that, David. But uh, you were hoping for a different outcome this postseason for Tampa Bay, but we have the defending champs in the Vegas Golden Knights. What is the likelihood of them repeating? We know personal David of our teams,
Hmm.
winning multiple Stanley Cup champions back to back, and it happens quite frequently. But will it happen with the Vegas Golden Knights?
No, I don't. I don't think it will because I mean it could happen, and I wouldn't
Mhm.
be surprised if it does happen. And I don't really have any logical reasoning behind what I'm about to say, but they just don't really have the vibe, the feel of a team that could repeat. To me, I just see them more as a team that finally won it all, and then they're like, okay, we can, we reached the mountaintop. All things are good now.
Like St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they could easily be like, the St. Louis
And the
Blues are
Washington Capitals too.
the Capitals, yeah,
Yeah.
who beat the Vegas Golden Knights in their inaugural
Mhm.
year in the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, that probably would have been the perfect season right there
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a NHL team, but, it was awesome to see Ovechkin finally win his first Stanley Cup, so,
Mhm.
it had to happen, but, yeah, the Vegas Golden Knights, they sure would love to be, the next back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, which, of course, any team would, but they have quite the journey ahead of them, as we've talked about these teams that the Dallas Stars, the Avalanche, who are all going to pose a big threat in the West.
And unfortunately, the Golden Knights are a team that kind of lays in the weeds until it's time to turn it on. Kind of like we
Mhm.
were talking about with Golden State.
Yeah.
It's they tend to turn it on when it matters the most, and they're a defensive team, so they're they're not going to let these high flyers get past them, and that's what you know they were able to use to shut down the Dallas Stars last year. Can Dallas get over that hump? You know, or get over the mental portion of it, you know, getting past what happened to them in last year's playoffs.
Yeah, I think there's just because the Golden Knights have been in existence since the 2017 18 season, so that's 6 years now at this point. And I think there's just been a couple seasons where they missed the Western Conference finals. There was that one year where I think they missed the playoffs altogether, and then there was that one year, I don't remember if it was the first round or the second round, but you guys remember that 7 game series against the Sharks? And there was like that one game where like Vegas just had a complete meltdown of epic proportions. But for the most part, it seems like we see Vegas in the Western Conference Finals like almost every year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that was probably the last time the Sharks have ever been relevant.
Dude,
So,
they are so freaking bad this year, man. They have like a negative 130, 140 goal differential. They have
yeah,
been so freaking bad.
yeah. I mean, their only talent last year was Carlson, and the Pens got him. So it's like they now it's just really bad for them.
Oh, I
But
didn't I didn't realize that this was Carlson's first year with you guys. I thought he was there last year.
Yeah, so no, we got him free agency in the off season, so this is his first year
Right.
there. So,
Gotcha, gotcha.
but if you were to say right now, who you think's going to win it all this year, Stanley Cup wise?
Who
It's
did
a
I
tough one in hockey.
who did I
That's the
who
thing.
did I predict earlier? I'm pretty sure I predicted a Bruins and Star Stanley Cup, but I for the life of
Yeah,
me cannot remember who I picked. But you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna say the Bruins.
yeah,
Partially because obviously I want the Lightning to win and I'm not gonna jinx my team. I don't think the Lightning are gonna win it all this year, man.
yeah,
But I don't want to jinx anybody. So for now, I'll just say the Bruins with their like 100 loser points.
yeah.
I'm gonna go Stars, and even with the President's Cup, uh, the 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 witchcraft of the President's Cup hanging over their head, uh, I still think that the Stars will be able to get over that hump, you know, and put themselves in a place to where they can at least play for the championship and I think they will finally get Ottinger the championship that he deserves.
Interesting, guys. Like, and I don't know, Matthew. Maybe this is your prediction, but we're not really talking about the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, they have been on a tear since the beginning of the season. I think they're second in the West right now behind the Dallas Stars. And yet nobody's talking about, like, at least nobody among us is talking about them as, teams that could win it all. So,
Well, I mean, they were the top team at the All-Star break. And they've continued to show that consistency all year. I guess everyone's just expecting them to fall off, or they're, they haven't been relevant, such like the Bruins, with their record year last year, and this and that. That they aren't getting talked about enough. But yeah, the Vancouver Canucks, they weren't my prediction. They still aren't my prediction. But yeah, there should be some respect on their name, absolutely, for the season that they've had this year. But my prediction earlier at the All-Star break was the Rangers, and here they are, atop of the NHL. But a part of me almost feels like this is going to be the Bruins' year, because the Bruins, they had that amazing year last year, and now they got they got served with that humble pie, and now they are, they could be a force to be reckoned with in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, David, I almost probably am going to agree with you there that I think the Bruins could win it all this year.
yeah.
They could have last year too. That's the thing. They could, they were like the '07 Patriots. They had the undefeated year. They should have won that Super Bowl. They had the better team, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. And Boston last year had the best team in the NHL record, and they lost in the first round.
Real quick, can we just talk real quick about how overtime losses might be the worst thing ever in the NHL? And I can't believe I'm about to defend the Florida Panthers here, me being a Lightning fan, right? But the Florida Panthers have 47 wins on the season so far, okay? The Boston Bruins, they have 44 wins. And yet the Bruins have more overall points than the Panthers do, just because they have more loser points,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
I mean, how ridiculous is that?
Well, it's almost as ridiculous as the Minnesota Wild the other night in overtime. Please tell me you guys saw everything that happened there. No, oh my gosh, you guys didn't see. So
No,
earlier this year, the Wild, they pulled Fleury from the goalie in
Mhm.
overtime, and it paid off for them because they actually scored the winning goal within 20 seconds after they pulled him. Well, they tried it again, and they gave up an empty netter goal to lose the game. Well, by doing so, by pulling your goalie in overtime and losing, you then forfeit your loser points. So you get no points whatsoever that game.
What?
Yep.
I
wow.
Yeah.
I did
So
not I did not know that.
it was a hockey rule that like no one knew. Maybe they didn't even know it, but yeah. So they actually forfeited all their all their 1 point that night for losing in overtime because
Just
they
because
pulled.
they just because of that. Just because they pulled their goalie.
Yep, it's an overtime rule. Yep.
Oh my wow.
So, and that the points are crucial this time of the year. So
Oh
the
yeah.
Minnesota Wild, they learned their lesson. It worked for them the first time. They were hoping for sure it was going to work this second time, and it did not at all. So um, they learned the hard way there. But to your point, David, I wanted to tie that together because yeah, these overtime losses, you do get a point for it. And here, Florida is sitting behind because of that.
Right? Like, oh, like, hey, like let's just reward teams because hey, you're trying so hard, man. And I'm a
Yeah,
Lightning fan defending the Panthers here, so
I
I'm not
know.
being biased.
Imagine like giving up like a 3-goal lead and it's tied, it goes overtime, you lose the game, but you still get the points. Like you blew that lead,
Right? You
You
don't
shouldn't
you
be
don't
rewarded with anything.
you don't yeah, you don't deserve anything at that point.
Yeah, so but that's just how the rules are. But I want to kind of transition this over to the NFL right now because we had a big trade that happened today, and that is Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills has been traded to the Houston Texans for a second round pick in the 2025 draft. The Bills are also sending with Stephon Diggs to the Texans a 2025 fifth round pick and a 2024, so this year, sixth round pick. And guys, I just have to ask, I mean, uh, what kind of dirt does the Texans have on the Bills to just pull off this high rate robbery of a trade?
I think we should let the Texas guy take this one first.
This is purely a deal that gets Stephon Diggs out of their locker room and off their books.
Nah, not
Not
necessarily.
totally, not totally, but they were so far over the cap going into the new year that they've still got to clear some space. And this is such a deep draft in wide receivers that they can get some high end talent that they can develop pretty quickly that's just about ready to go already and
Mm.
put them on the field with Josh Allen and not have to worry about the egos of him and of Josh Allen and the new receivers butting heads from day one.
Yeah, I mean, they're the Bills right now are, they're the 22nd pick, something like that in the draft. I can't
28.
20. Oh gosh, I was way off. My bad. 28. But they say can be available around there? AD Mitchell, Xavier Worthy. Gosh, and they get one of those, they're already looking, decent. They could double dip in the second round, even again for a wide receiver. They could get Troy Franklin. They could get
Mm.
Xavier Legette. I mean, this receiving group in the draft is very deep. So they could still be good there, but yeah, this was a $33 million dead cap hit for the Bills, which is the largest of a non-quarterback in the NFL ever. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he still left a lot of money there on the books, but the Texans, who still have a lot of money to spend, will pick up that contract, and then they could talk about extensions, after as well. But the Texans are really enjoying this. I mean, I don't know if Diggs is a locker room cancer, but I'm sure he'll love playing with CJ Stroud, because who wouldn't right now? And Houston, they've got a really bright future. If they didn't before, their future continues to get bright. Not with the additions of Joe Mixon, but Stephon Diggs is a really talented wide receiver, so that's just
Mhm.
another weapon for CJ
Well,
Stroud.
there's two things here, okay? One, Stephon Diggs clearly wanted out of Buffalo. Like, he did not even hide that. I think he made it very, very clear to everybody that he wanted out of Buffalo. And two, the Houston Texans are showing that they mean business and they want to capitalize on CJ Stroud's historic rookie season. So good on them.
Absolutely. I mean, huge kudos there.
And just to point out, the cap hit for Stephon Diggs in Houston is going to be 19 million.
Yeah. So 19 million versus the dead cap of what, 33 million in Buffalo. So and then the second round pick that they gave up to Buffalo was actually via Minnesota.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
so
was through the Vikings.
yeah. So I just think that the Texans are still sitting pretty darn good here with also getting an additional two draft picks on top of that.
And right now the Bills are sitting just under the cap, about 3.5 million.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was no secret that Stephon Diggs wanted out of Minnesota. It's no secret he wanted out of Buffalo.
So
It
then he's going to want
starts
out
to
of
wonder.
Houston soon.
Well, he wants to win now. I get that, but you're starting to create a pattern that does not look good on you as well.
It's almost a Terrell Owens pattern. Yeah, I am
Yeah.
more important than everybody else that needs to
Mhm.
get the ball too.
Yeah.
Because when you're looking at everybody else around him, your Nico Collins, your Dalton Schultz, your Tank Dells,
Dells.
those are good receivers without him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is a let's take a. We were just about there already. Let's take a shot.
Yeah.
That's what this move is.
Oh,
You
they're
know,
trying to create a defensive nightmare, because, or I'll say offensive nightmare, but nightmare for the defenses, because you have Stephon Diggs, who's, like I said, extremely talented, but then, yes, the Tank Dells, the Dalton Schultz, there's gonna be a lot of targets out there, and you're not gonna be able to double. You just can't. So, it's going to be very fun for CJ Stroud to have these weapons because Nico Collins showed his worth, Tank Dell showed his worth before his injury. If he
Mhm.
comes back, 100%, it's gonna be very scary, on Sundays against a team like that. So, good job for Houston for really making this trade happen. They are showing that, yeah, they want to win and they want to cap off this amazing year CJ Stroud had last year.
Now going into this season, and you're going to see C.J. Stroud against Trevor Lawrence. You're going to see him against Anthony Richardson. You know, you're going to see him against Will Levis. That is a young core of quarterbacks that we could see playing each other for quite some time. And I'm here for it. I want to see this development of these players.
And all in one division. Like, how did we get so lucky to really see that? It's not like they were scattered.
Mhm.
They're all in one division. You're seeing going into their second year of three of those quarterbacks. I mean, Will Levis, CJ Stroud, and Anthony Richardson. Granted, Anthony Richardson was hurt most of the year. And then Will Levis, he didn't see the field that much either. So, but still, they are young. It's and all in one division. So yeah, I'm all for it as well, Ed. So it's bright.
Hey, you guys want to, since we were, and a slight topic change, but we were talking about him earlier. You want to talk about something very Doc Rivers esque. Right now, the Milwaukee Bucks are on the verge of losing to the 25-50 Memphis Grizzlies. So, classic Doc ball right there.
Yeah, you can't really say much because Milwaukee, or sorry, not Milwaukee, Boston blew that 30-point lead the other day against, oh gosh, who was it? One of the worst teams in basketball.
It was the Hawks, and the Hawks are not one of the worst teams. They're not a great team, but they're also not one of the worst teams.
Yeah.
Unless there's another team that the Boston Celtics blew a 30 lead
No,
point against.
it was back to back nights they blew a lead, but the 30-point lead was the big one. And I thought that was against one of the worst teams. I just can't think of who it was right now, but yeah,
Gotcha.
Look, let's just call it load management. They're so far ahead where they
yeah,
just quit playing.
exactly. But
Wait,
this is
hold up. I slight correction. I read that was actually 15 minutes ago, and I can confirm. Yes, the Bucks did lose to the now 26-50 Memphis Grizzlies.
yeah, and I was totally wrong on that. Remember when we talked about when John Morant came
Hmm.
back to the Grizzlies? You guys asked me, "Is this a playoff team now?" And I said yes. And
We
now
all,
look at the Grizzlies.
I mean, we all thought that once Jaw comes back, that the Grizzlies are going to be a playoff team, and I think we were right to think that. But obviously, they didn't have a good year this year, so maybe they can rebound next year,
Yeah,
but
because
not this year.
they do have talent there. If Ja Morant could keep his gun holstered, but speaking of
Respect the weapon.
yeah, speaking of off the field issues and drama, what in the world is going on with Rashi Rice? This is a very, trending, continuing topic that's in the news right now. First and foremost, thankfully, no one in this situation was killed because that could have easily happened here. But the video, if you have not seen it, you can find it online circulating of a Lamborghini and a Corvette, I want to say, causing a six-car crash on the freeway, which, if you've watched the video, it's clear as day that they were racing each other. And they crashed and then fled. And Rashi Weiss was the registered lease. Yeah, he was leasing that Lamborghini. He was also the registered owner of the Corvette that was also involved in the accident. He has now posted on his Instagram story, I believe it is, that he is going to be fully cooperating. But he did not acknowledge if he was a driver or anything of the likes of that. But he did say that he is going to fully cooperate and do everything he can for this instance. So He should have been the one driving the Lamborghini, according to the company that he was leasing from. It was mainly a rental company. It was like almost $1,500 a day to rent that Lamborghini, and it was only his name on the paperwork. So of course that company is like, oh, I smell lawsuit right away, because if it wasn't him driving, they're going to go after him. If it was driving him, they're going after him. So I mean, either way, they're looking hard if it is him. But Rashid Rice was one of the guys that would actually catch the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs come late,
Mhm.
and won the Super Bowl with them, and here he is street racing. So it is very unfortunate to see, and like we said, we were glad that no one did die in this situation. But what in the world is happening with these off the field situations like this?
Well, I mean, like the last thing the NFL needs is another Henry Ruggs situation. And I'll be honest, I haven't really looked too deep into this, Matthew. But like just as you said, and we're all in agreement here, the important thing is that nobody died. Obviously, there needs to be consequences, but the fact that everybody seems to be okay is obviously the most important thing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. People's health and safety should always be first and foremost when it comes to these situations.
100%. And I know that stretch of road that they were racing on. It's just outside of the SMU campus where Rasheed Rice went to college. So he was out. I can only speculate that he was just out with his friends, from college, and they were just hanging out, and they thought it'd be a good idea. And, these good ideas in this situation turn out to really be really bad ideas in this situation.
But
Absolutely.
like, and not like not to promote drag racing in any sort of way. But if you're going to do it, why would you do it there of all places?
Yeah, that's just how it is now. No one's willing to take their car to a track. It's not like it was a professional, tuned up car, but that's the place where you need to go. If you have racing on your mind, you take it to a track. You don't take it on the freeway where other people's lives are at risk because of
Hmm.
that foolishness. I mean, the video I saw, you could clearly see them essentially dodging a car, but one of them does hit the medium in the shoulder, which then propels them to the right. But it's just that is not what you need to be doing, especially on a freeway where other people's lives are at
Hmm.
risk. So, um, but yeah, we'll see what happens more of this, because obviously there's investigations underway. There's going to be a lot more that comes out to it, but like we said before, glad that no one did die from this situation. But lastly, another big topic that's happening in the NFL, and it revolves around the Kansas City
Yep.
Chiefs as well. Jackson County, Missouri votes to reject the sales tax measure to fund the new stadiums for the Chiefs and the Royals. Guys, is it time for Kansas City, team wise, to actually play in the state of Kansas, to stop the confusion once and for all? Because Kansas City is not in Kansas, guys. If you did not know that, here is a lesson for you. But
Well, I
Kansas
think
is trying to lure them over.
I think there is a isn't I thought there was a Kansas City, Kansas. Like there's a Kansas City, Missouri, and then there's a Kansas City, Kansas.
There is a Kansas City, Kansas. It's across the river from where Kansas City,
City,
Missouri is.
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah. So, but in reality, though, the teams itself play there. But we won't go down that rabbit hole of they could be the New Jersey Giants or the New Jersey Jets, but it's
or
better that they're the New York.
and who was it that suggested that the Chiefs come back to Dallas? Was that the
I saw
Dallas
that
mayor?
earlier. I saw that earlier. They said, "Bring them home. Bring the Chiefs back to Dallas." So,
Yeah.
It's the fifth largest market there is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So why not?
I mean, Dallas absolutely could support two teams. Like the market, the metro area is certainly big enough to support more than one team. But of course,
Jerry Jones will never let that happen.
Look,
yeah,
they are the Arlington Cowboys, not the Dallas Cowboys. Okay.
yeah.
Let's squeeze them over, and let's promote an actual Dallas team here. But like the Santa Clara 49ers, gosh, like I said, we'll go down a rabbit hole, guys. But
Well, In fairness, and that always confused me too. But the more I thought about it, I think the San Francisco in that name is like more referring to the San Francisco Bay Area rather than the city itself. But
Yeah.
it is still like the optics are still ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But yes, so the sales tax initiative did fail, and people are like, no, we don't want to pay more taxes, or we don't want to extend this tax that's already being in the sales tax that's already there. So I can't blame them for that at all. But they're going to have to figure out what they are going to do to fund the rest of this stadium concept they have for both the teams.
And it's two different things here. You've got the Chiefs, back-to-back champions, asking for a little extra help, which we've talked about before. Their ownership is known for being a little bit of penny pinching.
Mhm.
So they're trying to get somebody else to pay their bill for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas the Kansas City Royals, their last World Series appearance, let alone championship, was 2015.
Mhm.
So they are in completely different directions at this point, and the Royals are asking for a whole new stadium. The Chiefs are asking for upgrades to their current stadium.
They do, yeah.
There
So
was a
go
There
ahead,
was a
David.
recent poll I saw, Ed, that was ranking the NFL owners from best to worst, and the
Uh-huh.
Chiefs owners were among the worst. And initially, I was shocked. I'm like, how the hell are the Chiefs owners among the worst? Well, now I am seeing why. I mean, they struck gold with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, but when it comes to the actual business side of things, I could definitely see why they're ranked among the worst.
The only thing that the Kansas City Chiefs in that poll rated an A plus in is the head coach. Everything else
I can
was
see it.
C's and D's. It
Hmm.
Yeah.
was it was a terrible report card for
Mm.
them. But if I'm a resident of Kansas City, I'm like, I don't want to help pay for a team that is not putting more on the field
Hmm.
than just some guys that they can pay for with uh, only getting the revenue share from MLB.
Certainly. And my mindset would be, hey, like, aren't you guys the defending back-to-back Super Bowl champions? How do you not have more money? Like, why are you asking us? Why are you asking us regular folks for more money?
Yeah, and I mean they were putting down, I want to say around 300 million. I think they were already, upfront about can for the Chiefs wise, but the initiative that's already the sales tax thing that they were voting for, it's already something that's in place currently for Arrowhead Stadium. So the percentage of the sales tax would not change. They would just extend it another 30 years. So they were just that's just more though to it. And that's why people are like, I don't want to continue to pay this percentage in sales tax that goes to you for, it's like, once my lease is up or once my mortgage is up and all that, I don't want to continue to pay those payments, right? No, I want it to be done with.
Well, and how many regular people that are tailgating out in the parking lot can actually afford tickets for 8 home games a year, 8, 9 home games a year?
Yeah,
There's,
and yeah,
it's just not feasible.
no.
A part of me sort of feels like it's pointless to have this conversation because at the end of the day, do we really think that anything bad is going to happen to the Chiefs? No. I mean,
Well, look at the A's.
will it? Wait, the who?
The A's. I
Okay,
mean,
but
I'm not
the A's.
saying
Okay,
bad.
but the A's have been a joke for like the past 5 years or so.
Yeah, but that's because of penny pitching.
Fair.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
the
so
Chiefs.
now there's a conversation out there. Do the Kansas City Royals look for a new home?
Mm.
Because MLB has been looking for more markets to dive into,
Mhm.
and Nashville's been one.
Nashville, and they're not
Nashville.
too far.
Salt Lake City's
Salt Lake
been
City.
another.
Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe Charlotte, although that would probably I don't know how that would work with the Braves being, nearby. Like I feel like the Braves have completely overtaken that entire area.
I would
Yeah,
think the Nationals and the Orioles have a bigger say on that one.
Yeah,
Fair,
because it being in
for
North
sure.
Carolina right there, but that could be a pretty happy medium right there, but so is Nashville. So, I mean, there is a lot of other places that wants a team bad.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, that's something to pay attention to, guys. It's nothing that's imminent. It's not like immediately, but it is pretty big. The owners did anticipate it was going to be rejected, but they don't have a plan in place. That is something that they are still having to gather more of, and some of those plans could possibly be to leave. So, it's just something to pay attention to. It's going to be a while, but. That was pretty big news. The fact that it is official that they did reject that measure. So they said no more taxes. Let's stop with that. I would love for that too. But
Taxation is theft. Okay, the libertarians don't get everything right, but they sure as hell get that part right.
yeah, so that is exactly true, David. So, but that's about all we have today, though, guys. So if you could hit that like, that subscribe button, I would really appreciate that. We would actually all appreciate that. And if you could share these videos and drop in the comments your thoughts, your opinions on topics that we talk about, whether it be this episode or episodes of prior, we would appreciate that too. We enjoy engagement with you guys. So if you want to continue to drop those comments, we'd appreciate that. Thank you guys for all that you do. We'll continue to give you guys our very best and the best content that you guys desire. But until next time, guys, we are rounding third and we are headed for home.